Sagittarius, hello, welcome to Catalyst Energies and welcome to your new moon astrology forecast. So welcome back everyone. If you're new to this channel, new to the series, welcome. Thank you for being here. Special shout out to my patrons on Subscribestar. Truly appreciate your support. And this report is for the new moon in Aquarius on February 1st, 2022. We're going to look at the major themes that have to do with this new moon leading up to the full moon in particular. And then we're looking at Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius moon, Sagittarius sun. So we're going to be looking at the areas that are primarily affected by some of these major themes from a new moon in Aquarius up to the full moon in Leo. So when we look at that chart, we'll see that that is a very, very intense, very frustrating, but also the potential for growth is immense and a karmic clearing like no other. So for the Sag person, let's start at the new moon, which is on the 1st of February in Aquarius, right? It is in the 3rd house. Now you have, not only do we have this new moon in the 3rd house, it's conjunction with Saturn. So the realm of the mind is the primary focus for this lunar cycle in terms of setting intentions for personal growth and development. You want your mind, Sagittarius, to be like a fine-tuned instrument that can measure the changes in the frequency of the world around you from a mental perspective through all of the channels of communication and mental interaction that you engage with, right? And that can be anything from your conversations on a daily basis with coworkers and roommates and family members to the podcasts you listen to, the DMs, the texts, the emails, your commute back and forth to work, the newspapers, the magazines, the blogs that you read. This is all 3rd house. It's all about data, information, observation, empiricism, and reasoning and learning. This comes through your nervous system functioning. So the 3rd house, to have this new moon and to have a very strong Saturn, right? Saturn is a co-ruler of Aquarius in this area. I mean, not only have you had a stable, albeit possibly limiting force in the realm of ideas and your mind and your communication, but you also have a sense of authority and a sense of stability around this too, which is going to really allow for a conscious awareness and intention to utilize that security and that stability and that natural proficiency to actually measure changes in your mind and in the mental realm and ideas and information in order to make reasonable predictions about how things are going to change in the social environment. So Sag, this is where it starts. And the Uranus is a big player in this whole process, and the 6th house, because this has to do with what you do every day, right? Your works, your routines, your habits, your practices. What are you doing to purify yourself or to create some sort of astral or energetic hygiene protocol, self-care? This is where healing happens. And it's usually precipitated by some sort of crisis, but it really is just the mundane minutia and deep work on the self that the 6th house represents. So Sag, Uranus here has been a double-edged sword because it has allowed for some innovation and some real breakthroughs about this and what you want your service to be, and what it means to be of service, what it means to be embodied, and certainly what it means to think outside of the box and innovate when it comes to your daily activities and be, allow for this. Allow yourself to transform in this realm through the lack of stability. And Uranus is ruling this new moon because it's Aquarius new moon. So this is also coming into the picture because of that, and the North Node is here. Now, there's a lot of stuff over here in Capricorn that is going to trine over to this at different times, right? You have Mercury retrograde, you have Pluto here. The second house is, you have Mars, you have Venus. The second house is about your resources and your assets and all of the things that represent your actual valued worth, or what you consider valuable or having inherent worth. So your house, your bank account with money in it, or your cash, or if you have any precious metals, for instance. These are just examples. But your job, right? If your job is where you get your income, then that can be a second house. Your literal house or your land, all of your material assets that you own. These are all second house. Now, also too, physiologically, your genetics are yours. Your lineage, your traditions, this is where you come out of. You have energetic resources that are yours, that is your birthright. The second house is the fertility and the objective world that we are embedded in that will allow us to grow. And so this is where the value and worth comes in. There's been a lot of change happening, and there's more coming, and there's a big release that's coming that is going to be initiated by Venus and Mars coming together at the full moon. And so there will be a real release here for Sag in the realm of these resources, right? Letting go, and finally breaking free of whatever has been holding these resources back or holding you back resource-wise. And there's a connection here with Mars, with Venus. They'll both have their connection with Uranus about what you're actually doing with those resources within yourself, right? You take them, you come to some sort of mental understanding or conscious awareness of what those are. And then by the time you get a sense of your self-esteem and your confidence of who you are, then you put them into place, put everything into place, and utilize those resources as a way for you to grow, right? If the second house is the soil, the sixth house is the root system, drawing the nutrients up from the soil. So there is something very mature and patient and very wise about Venus now in this trine to Uranus, about the value of you and in relation to resources, in relation to the underlying reason for those resources, that is, I think, going to really stabilize you as this is kind of flipping through all of the options. The sixth house, Uranus in the sixth house, right? The lack of stability is in some ways waking us all up to the real value and worth of our awakening. And so this is going to be experience for the Sag person in their everyday life, like what they're doing with those resources, what they're gathering from them to make themselves a better person. So when there's this sextile to Black Moon Lilith, and it's in an opposition to Venus in the second house, we see that there is something very deep that must be expressed, a deep feeling that must be expressed. And in the eighth house, it is definitely going to be about the place and the outcome, what you've produced when you have, in fact, invested your resources into a relationship of any kind, and not so much the outcome, but the power, I guess you could say, is the outcome. There's something very deep and primal that demands to be heard and expressed here with Lilith, that will be expressed about this area of intimacy and trust and what you have produced as a result of your cooperation or communion. And it's going to and it's going to draw out, in some ways, Venus is going to be kind of that really stable, grounded grandmother figure in holding it down in terms of your assets, while that is infinite, and that is your birthright, and is nothing, that is just the inherent value of everything around you, and reminding you of that, while this expression of what has been created in the context of other relationships it demands to come up and be expressed in some way. And so I think finding the balance point is going to be the best way to deal with this. And you're going to find Uranus being involved again in this process of what you're doing with those resources in your daily life, right? Because that's going to be a lot more of the focus in the next year and a half at a soul level for the Sagittarius person. And it's okay. Let it go. Clown it, right? You don't have to take it seriously. Maybe your feelings get hurt. Maybe you hurt someone else's feelings, especially in the 8th house. This is very easy to do because this is the area of intimacy and trust and betrayal in the 8th house, and a sense of power. And so there may be a lashing out or some sort of really, so uncalled for expression, you know what I mean? I didn't mean it type of things coming out, but it's not so much in expression, but in feeling, right? And how it feels. And it has to do with these the space in between when you've given yourself in a relationship of any kind and you've produced something and it's really challenging the sense of your inherent value and how you feel about that. And what with Mars here, you want to act on that. You want to output that value. But let this come out because this is just something that needs to be heard for all of us. And again, it's going to have a lot to do with activating this, not even activating, but the sense of humor about it is going to be a way you can invest yourself in not getting too attached to any one way of moving through your daily activity or how your service is expressed, right? You failed, we fail, we all do, and there's some, this expression needs to come out even in spite of knowing and feeling and being very mature about, the inherent worth of everything. Sag, it's just little tantrum needs to come out and this is not to invalidate it, this, especially for Sag, it's definitely in probably one of the most sensitive, dark, shadowy areas to have Lilith come out in Cancer, but it's necessary for this growth process. And specifically for Sag, it's necessary in terms of not getting caught in one way of expressing oneself and getting caught in, and that's Chiron right here in your 5th house. So these are some of the major themes here for Sag for this new moon period leading up to the full moon. So if we look at where it's going, number one, like I said, there's going to be connections with Mercury and Pluto in the 2nd house. So this demolition and this transformation and even the mental focus on the change or the metamorphosis of the very nature of these resources and where they come from and their value and worth, even though that's happening and there's a mental kind of focus on it, again, it's in a trine over to the North Node in your 6th house of the works and your service and your daily routines. And so even though there's changes in the resources and some things are being destroyed in order to create space for new things to grow, and there may be a mental or logical or empirical just kind of recognition or thought about it, what it's also allowing for is it's supporting and getting a lot of traction in terms of where we're all being pulled in a direction that is much more about inherent value and worth and natural fulfillment. And so when we're talking about currency as itself, which is a big part of the Taurus archetype, we see that when there is a demolition of the economy in itself and that we have at least detached but logical outlook about that and a serious outlook about that, I think that is a really good way to, look at not only the aspect of currency in and of itself, which is Taurus, but for the Sag person, what it is that you are doing on a daily basis to maybe cultivate that natural fulfillment. And you wouldn't be able to really do that as well if there wasn't a massive change in the very nature of the resources in general. Maybe there just needs to be tilling of the ground and the demolition, because it needs to fertilize new resources in order to actually utilize them for growth, right? I think a lot about this cycle in terms of plants. So let's go forward here to the actual full moon, because it's going to give an idea here of it's going to give us an idea here of the journey of the moon during this lunar cycle, since that's what we are talking about, is a lunar cycle, and the lunation, because this is about each of us and our own personal growth of how we feel, and also how we express ourselves and find ourselves. So here is this full moon, guys, and you can see that there is a grand square surrounding it that is involving the nodes of the moon. So karmic and at a soul level is involved, and then you have these two and they're all galactic degrees, right? You have 27 and Aquarius and Leo. This is the Atlantean galactic degree. They're both Orion galactic degrees. They're both Pleiadian galactic degrees. And then the nodes are galactic degrees, and they're in definitively Pleiadian degrees. So, and you see it's a grand square. There's no getting away from this challenge. So people will either be incredibly frustrated and agitated, and there is agitation certainly that is part of the first half of this lunar cycle with the moon. Will be in a square at one point with Uranus from the third house. And so not only are Sag people getting to a culmination point of being able to store large amounts of information mentally and cognitively for the right time, and not be overwhelmed by all of, trying to understand it all, right? The ninth house is about alchemical transmutation, and it's about alchemy. And if you're going to take in and really find your sense of fulfillment and sustainment in this moment, in your mind and your mental realm, and even in your communication, when it gets to this level of saturation, and how you feel not only about your own belief systems, but feeling into the culture's belief systems, and the intensity of it and the fullness of it. It's important to realize that for the Sag person, that understanding and synthesis is where you really shine the most. And so you may be in a very unique position, Sagittarius, above everybody else for this incredibly potent and karmic full moon, to be able to hold the feeling very successfully without being overwhelmed, because you understand you can feel into the understanding of the whole big picture. Whereas, I would say, because you are able to find yourself and your voice by downloading and storing incredible amounts of data. And not only that, but processing them, analyze them, which is the sixth house. And you have Uranus here to assist in this process of analyzing this incredible amount of data, which is your own consciousness. And then you get to this point in the ninth house of understanding and synthesis, and you feel into, and so it will be overwhelming. But like I said, out of all of the signs, Sag seems like that their ability to synthesize large amounts of data or communications and feel into that fullness of understanding without being overwhelmed by it is strong. And it will be overwhelming. I mean, again, it's very karmic, and it'll go towards the analysis and your ability to analyze all of the information and data that your immediate environment is giving you, and being able to process it at a galactic level, like an alien level, an outside of the box level of Uranus, right? Unconventional. So Sag, I think that you actually, like I said, are in a position that you could really hold not just your own beliefs, but really you will be getting information about your own feels and a lot of the cultural value feels that's going to reach ahead. And again, it's going to be like, do we want to do we want to go through the Atlantean timeline again? Or are we ready to move forward to successfully fulfill the Pleiadian experiment where we make the leap? And I believe that we are making the leap, but we still are going to all have to feel into this really strong, stable connection with everybody's soul's karma. So what else do we have? You do see that Uranus is in a sextile to your ruling planet Jupiter, which is in Pisces and is just having all of these incredible spiritual expansions in Pisces right now. And again, sextile Uranus in Taurus in your sixth house. So, vast and wide and very strong inner life and a sense of being able to manage that, a sense of being able to hold the expansiveness, to realize the benefit of a vast network of roots that go into, a deeper part of who you are and where you belong, and your own expansion coming from into your inner life. I think this is really, really strong. And again, it'll allow for an investment and an activation in this analysis that has to, this analysis that is like quantum. I mean, that seems to be like not only thinking outside of the box and being innovative in terms of your daily activities, but also your ability to analyze information and data is really like actual like resources as well is meant to be. I mean, you're going to have to kind of employ some sort of quantum analysis in order to make sense of what is happening right now, Sag. And you're like the perfect person to do it, because really, truly, the nature of your personality is, always looking up and always looking and seeking the big picture, always towards the big picture and the understanding. So, the process in which you do that happens in the sixth house. And so, it's good that there's this focus here, and that Jupiter is in a sextile. It's really going to assist you in terms of, let's see here, 11 degrees of Taurus, so 11 degrees of Pisces. I believe this is a narrow path, my friends, in the fourth house. So in some ways, it's going to be like, all right, you got to get even deeper into the roots of who you are, into what stabilizes you emotionally. Yes, men traveling a narrow path, seeking illumination, and to seek at whatever cost entrance to the transcendent realm. It's really going to come from your own inner life and the stability that you have there. And Jupiter's really going to assist that. So what else is going on for Sag, and, for this new moon? Again, it's about the mind. Mercury will have come into the third house by the time we get to the full moon. So, all engines go in terms of the mental capacity, and Saturn is still here, but the release in the actual material world around you and your assets with Venus and Mars, it's going to be like, just throwing off the shackles and coming into a much more authentic and real version of your resources and assets. You're going to be freed in this way, and which is really good, because that's going to need to be released so that you can actually start to activate this quantum analysis on a daily basis, in your works, in your service, in your daily like meditation or prayer or whatever process you're engaging in. Sag is really going to have to up their up their game in terms of the realm of the mind and analysis and even understanding, because with this full moon is the Sag person is going to be saturated with, not, like I said, not only their beliefs, but a lot of the culture's beliefs, and it's going to be very overwhelming, and it's going to be intense. So I think that that's all I can really say for Sag. Yeah. Yeah, we're just going to leave it at that. So thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. If you're interested in a reading or energy work, or to get more information, you can go to catalystenergies.net. That's in the description box below. Everything else you need is in the description box below. Telegram, Subscribestar, my email, the website, even the outro music link you can get from the description box below. I will also link the astrology report for the fourth lunar quarter, going from the third quarter moon up to the new moon, if you're interested in that, or it'll be at the end of the video if you are on YouTube. So stay in touch, get on my email list through catalystenergies.net. Let me know if you're interested in booking a reading, and Sag, I will see you at the full moon for our next forecast video. Bye.